Hey everyone, Travis here on day 2 of week 8 of the North American LCS, joined by Link. Moments ago, Germany beat Argentina in the World Cup. At the same time, an equally global and epic event occurred, which is the LCS North America game, standard game between Dignitas, CLG, about the same amount of hype, and Link's team, CLG here, were able to beat Dignitas. You guys now 3-0 over them this split, I believe. They feel like you guys are their kryptonite. Why are you guys their kryptonite?
I don't know. They just don't do anything when they play versus us for whatever reason, or like whenever they do play versus us and then they like make a play, it's like it just feels like a desperate play, you know. And like one instance is when they like four-man dove double and Afro bottom lane with Vi and Aurelia, and then they just kind of gave us the game there. And then the other two games that we played versus them, they just don't really make any plays because I don't know what's going on with their team, but I guess they just don't have a shot caller making the plays.
Do you feel like they're playing, because you said when they play against you, they don't really make plays or they feel desperate. Do you feel as though they're playing worse against you than they normally do? Or are you like, where's the Dignitas that, has been doing so well? Or do you think that they just, for whatever reason, the plays that they do make don't succeed against you as opposed to other teams?
I feel like their solo laners need to like really get ahead and like snowballing to make those crazy types of plays. But I think for like CLG, we tend to be like the team that is really like passive in the beginning, and it's really hard to kill us, or it's really hard to snowball off of us. And sometimes like we do get into that like weird like moment where we just kind of give everything away, and we're like, all right, take the dragons, take the farm. We're just gonna sit back and then try to outscale or try to out rotate, and that's kind of like sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. But for whatever reason, we never do it versus Dignitas. So I guess we just play well versus them, and then they just play poorly versus us.
So why don't you just play? Why don't you just choose to play as good against the other teams as you can do against Dignitas? Because that seems like a winning strategy based on your record against Dignitas.
Well, we do this thing where we just kind of spin a wheel and then we just
That's right.
I don't know.
I forgot. Yeah. It always lands on that one for Dignitas, but for everybody else, yeah, it's very strange. Now, I was standing next to Kelby for the beginning of that game during Champion Select, and for about 40 or so seconds, it was locked in on the last pick, and he just sat there going, pick Renekton, Renekton, please pick Renekton. Why aren't you picking Renekton? Renekton, 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 please say Renekton, please, literally for the entire time. And then you guys locked in Shyvana. And he was like, I can guarantee that if we lose this game, they're going to say, why didn't we pick Renekton? What do you think? Do you think that it was still a good idea to pick Shyvana over Renekton? Like, what was happening on stage while Kelby was freaking out?
I think the problem with picking Shyvana and Renekton is we used to pick Shyvana and then we just kind of make her go 1v1 into like some crazy matchup like a Renekton Elise or something like that, and we just like, all right, Seraph, you're gonna just die and suicide for us. But it's like the wrong thing to do because before we'd play like junglers that would have high pressure, but then we'd have like a scaling top laner. So that's when like Renekton would be right in a 1v1. In this case, we just kind of wanted to 2v1 because I think our bottom lane wanted to dodge or something like that. So it was like, all right, then there's no point in picking Renekton who's going to pressure lane, right? Because you only pick Renekton to pressure lane. You should pick Shyvana otherwise if you're going to outscale and deal with the Jax later on. So in this game, we like thought about everything, and we didn't make the same mistake as before. As all right, it's either between Renekton and Shyvana. We're going to think about every scenario and we're going to figure it out. And then we talked about it and we were like, all right, it's Shyvana.
You still stand by that because obviously you won. You guys, when you went into that game, it looked, Dignitas ended up getting a couple kills early on, and it felt like that moment that occurs anytime CLG has a place where, because today, if LMQ loses to Complexity, which the way Complexity plays, there's like a 50-50 chance, you guys would be in the lead hands down, and even if LMQ wins, you guys are just tied against one other team instead of like the three. And so whenever Dignitas started to beat you guys, it felt like that moment where every time CLG has a chance at breaking away from the pack, they just lose awfully. But then you guys were able to pull it out. So do you think that there's ever an element of pressure that's causing you guys to have these moments, and maybe today you like got past that? Or do you think it's just sort of the way it works? It just was lucky that you played Dignitas, who you guys always tend to beat.
I think recently everyone on the team has been feeling more pressure just to become like just the fact that we're in first place, and it's a really strange feeling in a sense. Like to me, it doesn't even feel like we're in first place because we've never been first place in like a LCS split for like forever, and we've always been like the third or fourth place, right? Or sometimes even the second place. We're always like behind, or we're always playing like consistently well, and then we're like almost there but not quite there.
Right.
Like in this case, like the way I see it right now is like we're like kind of inconsistent, but somehow we're at the top. So in a sense, I feel like
Everyone's inconsistent.
yeah. So I feel like we're like lucky, uh, I don't know how to say it, but it just puts on pressure because it's like, well, we played bad this game, like, damn it, where did we go wrong? Like, how do we fix the problems? And then every loss like hurts more because sometimes we're beating like the top teams, right? We're beating like Cloud9, we're beating TSM, we're beating Dignitas, but then we'll give up games to like EG and Curse, and maybe those teams are getting better, and they actually are, but to us it makes us feel worse because it's like this team is getting better, but we should be getting even better, like because we need to rise above NA if we want to like win worlds, right? And I think that pressure is getting to everyone, and it's making everyone feel worse and worse. And like even though we're playing like well, and sometimes okay, in the games we lose, it feels bad.
Speaking of worlds, what do you think your chances are of going right now? No pressure.
I think we have a good shot at worlds. Like I mean that sounds really vague, but I think we have a pretty good shot. But I'm just like there's always like I don't know. It's scary to think about it. But so the way I do it is, all right, I'm gonna take it step by step, and then we're gonna get first in the LCS split or second, and then make sure we make it to playoffs, and then we're gonna try our asses off.
Right. It's like a progression with checkpoints. You recently put out a blog or vlog. I didn't click it. I just saw a link on Reddit that said we can't figure out what our problem is. And I don't need you to reiterate everything, but do you feel like you guys are maybe starting to figure that out, or is it still like this crazy mystery of like, what do we need to improve on?
So, the problem with CLG is that we've always known our problems. And you can go back to articles, and everyone on the team has talked about it. It's like, yeah, we have communication errors, we have shot calling errors, we have bad play problems or something like that. I don't know. We always know our problems, but the problem with CLG is that we don't know how to fix those problems. It's really hard to just sit down and then be like, all right, you need to do this, and then all right, we're fixing it tomorrow. And that just doesn't happen. The way it works on our team is everybody has to just undergo this long step-by-step process and make sure that we don't forget it, because this is a problem that a lot of other teams, and including us, run into. Is we'll fix those problems, but a week later we'll forget it, and then we'll run into them, right? And there's a lot of games that we lose off of this. For example, the LMQ game, I think we were doing a 2v1, and they had Elise and Renekton, and we had a Shyvana Elise, and we chose to fight them mid, and we just basically lost the game off that. And there are games where you shouldn't lose because of those basics, those simple basics, where you just have to go through a checklist of, all right, we're going to 2v1, are they stronger? Don't fight. Are we contesting dragon? All right, we're not going to contest it. Or, are we going to outscale? Are we going to give up dragons? Blah, blah, blah. But it's important that everyone on the team does this, and sometimes the team doesn't, and that's the hardest part. And this goes on to the next problem. It's really hard to tell people what they did wrong sometimes, because I'm going to be very honest here, is people are really bad at taking criticism on this team, and that's including me. And what happens is it just develops into this really bad mood sometimes, or attitude for the whole team, because we'll have a bad day of scrims, and then we can't really talk about it because if we talk about it, everyone's gonna get mad, or we don't argue about it. It's just more we don't talk about things, and that's kind of bad. And I think that's where we really need a true coach. I'm not saying Mani is bad or anything, but the problem with Mani is that he's online, and we need someone in the house everyone else has right now, I think. And that's what I think, to be honest. If you look at Scar right now, he's in the house, and he's your friend, right? He's gonna be there personally, and he's gonna always be there. But yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with CLG right now.
Really interesting. And obviously you guys, you mentioned that people on the team don't do well taking criticism. I also feel like you guys are also, from my interactions with you guys, very blunt as well, right? So it's kind of this bad mixture. It's interesting. You have always had really good insight into teams and the game and all that. And I'm kind of been curious because there's so much debate right now about like who's a good team and who isn't, and who deserves to be top one and who doesn't. Is it even possible for for you right now to look at teams and say like, okay, I think this is the top four, or is that impossible? And if it is, like, could you tell me what that is? Because that'd be great.
So I think the top four right now is
Like, can you rank them too?
okay. So the way I see it right now is I think Cloud9 and TSM are Cloud9, TSM, and CLG are top three.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna rank them in any order, but I'm not gonna rank them, but they can be like first, second, or third in any order. And the way I see it is, they all have really good attitudes, well, for the most part, and then they all have well, TSM and Cloud9 especially, they have really strong analysts and coaches, and that's what I see. TSM especially, I feel like, has a really good structure right now going on for them, and I think they all agree with what's going on, and they're all becoming closer and closer, and that's really good for them. Cloud9, just as a team, I feel like they might actually be the first place like team. Like, to be honest, like if I were to say which is like the most team esque, like yeah, like who is the best team, then it's Cloud9, because when I look at Cloud9 and when I've like played with them, they're just like they're really just a group of friends who just want to have fun and play the game and get better at the game. And when they talk to each other, they're not afraid at all. They'll just be like, "Dude, Sneaky, you've just been feeding all the game. Like, what the hell is going on?" Right? And then, or they'll tell High like what's going on here, and then they'll tell High to like get better at mid lane, and then High will like step up and try to get better, and then and that's what he's been doing. He's been practicing harder and harder. He's been asking me for 1v1s, and I'm helping him out, and we're helping each other out. And you can just see that they're trying to be there for each other, because they know that if one person is doing bad, then that one person might weigh down four other people. So that pressures that one person to get better at the game. So I feel like those, and same goes for CLG too. Like, if one person is doing bad on this team, then everybody usually will say it eventually. The problem is we don't say it fast enough, and that's kind of like where we need to get better at it.
Okay, so, and I'm curious about that too, because you didn't rank Dignitas in the top three. I'm not trying to call you out or anything, but the big conversation around that team has been a lot of people who are predicting that they're gonna, like they're only holding the throne for a little bit until like somebody comes in who rightfully deserves it, right? Like they're the interim guys, right? And Skara and Crumbs have both been outspoken about how it's kind of frustrating to hear that, or they're like, no, we're gonna prove it wrong.
But I mean, don't get me wrong here. Like, to be honest, like if I were to say it's like top three right now, then that's top three, like CLG, TSM, and Cloud9. But when I look at it right now, I'm looking at Curse and Dignitas, especially those two teams. Like, they're on the move to be on the rise. And like, I don't want to like disrespect Scar or anything, but I think he's awesome, and he's like, just from what I've seen from his Dignitas video, they just look like a group of friends trying to get better at the game too, and they all have really good attitudes. And I've talked to everyone too, and I know them personally pretty well. Curse especially, the thing about Curse is that they have a lot of resources at hand. Like, I think they have like 5 analysts or something like that. So they just have like
challenger teams.
Yeah, exactly. They have so much like things going for them. So and Liquid is always looking out to figure out what they can use, or like what resources they can grab to make their team better. And so I think Curse is on the move to rising up too. But the problem with Curse is, like, I feel like they always do really well in scrims, and to be honest, they crushed us in scrims this past week. They have like an 80% win rate versus us. But then I think like when it comes to LAN, they just choke or something. So it's really up to the players to step up on that terms.
So much has been said about how neck and neck everything is in North America. I've complained a little bit about how hard it is for me to figure out like compelling storylines when there's three-way tie, four-way tie, back to back, right? But it does seem, talking to people, that there's a general sentiment that all the teams have like these really great things going for them, or that they're all getting better. Do you think that North America is a region, like, is this finally our moment? Are we climbing up? We're gonna throw EU down and just look really good at Worlds?
I think everyone is becoming more and more towards like a team, like the way I see it, like last split or like 2 splits ago, like the only teams that really existed were, I guess, like TSM and Cloud9, and I guess like in a sense Vulcan was a team too, but because like if you look at them, they were just a freaking great like group of friends, and but the problem is like you need to make sure you keep your motivation, and you need to make sure that you are open to like everything and making sure that you just want to get better at the game. And that's really the most important part. And I feel like everyone has kind of stepped up their game recently, and everyone's just trying harder and harder because they just want it.
You have any shout outs, plugs, anything you want to say to any of the CLG fans out there?
Yeah, shout outs to our sponsors, NZXT, iBuyPower, Twitch, Cellucor, and Razer. And also thanks for supporting us. And, to be honest, like things are kind of in the dark times for us, but hopefully they're getting better. And with this 2-0, we are aiming to keep our first place and make sure that, we make it to playoffs and get a Worlds.
Can I just say how hilarious it is that I'm hearing you say things are kind of in the dark times for us whenever you're like currently tied. Well, right now, technically, you're first place. I remember Double Lift telling me things are kind of dark times for us as CLG fans when you guys were about to get relegated by GG's team. So things have definitely changed. Thanks so much for the interview. You can check out the rest of our coverage of all things esports at ongamers.com.